Emmy. Come on. Yay. There you go. Wait, brother, well, while we're doing this, I would like to introduce some people here. Of course, Sean, you've met, and Emery will like to talk a little bit to you here as well. Sean is the city engineer in Topeka, Kansas, but most of all, she's a fantastic mother and a grandmother of a 15-month-old, and she's known as Nana in our house now. I'm going to save this one for a second. This is my son, Nate. Some of you recall him growing up in Optimism and saw him at conventions when he was younger. And Nate is a personal trainer and an entrepreneur in Kansas City. His girlfriend, Angie Kish, who's with him here today, is a part of our family. She is the business manager for the surgical department at the University of Kansas Medical Center. And then the new doctor in the house, I try to tell her a JD is a doctorate. Nobody calls us doctor. But Dr. Elise Bruns, a new doctor of physical therapy, and hopefully she will get the most important degree of all soon, the JOB. And how many of you are friends of mine on Facebook by chance? Quite a few? Well, I invite everybody to be friends of ours on Facebook. But some of you may know that this is Emery, or Georgia Peach, but I'm happy to report, at least I'm happy, Georgia, it's their loss, is that Emery's back in Kansas City now, and if Elise gets a job there, maybe she'll be closer to home. But I think and Luc Dubois, we need to thank him. He met her with this, and she won't go anyplace. We only got her to take a nap with the dog. So let's give my family a round of applause as they take their seats. Okay, you can go on down. Is that right? You want to take? I will. Okay, this is the only French I'm probably going to attempt. Bonjour. Good afternoon. I know it's been a long day, but we're optimists, and we're optimistic about everything that we do. Now, as most of you know, if I haven't told you before, I'm from Kansas. And in Kansas, we have a saying that if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. In other words, no one who succeeds in life does so by themselves. And I'm so honored and privileged to have been elected by you and the others around the Optimist world to serve as the 2015-16 Optimist International President. And so thank you for that. I'm also honored that so many people in this audience have supported me over the years. And I can't introduce everybody here, but I would like to introduce a few that helped me along the way. Is Roger Vaughn here by chance? Roger, are you still here? Roger Vaughn was my vice president. We had the top region in Optimist International, and he pushed me and shoved me, but mostly he led me by the hand. So thank you, Roger Vaughn. Let's give him a round of applause. Jay Wayne Smith is not here, but he was the governor that year, and he stood by me every way. It meant so much to me when I went to my father's funeral. I recall walking into the church, and the first person I saw, I don't know how he even found out about it, but it was Jay Wayne Smith. And I'll talk a little bit about family later. You've met my family, but family means so much to me, and for him to be there for our family meant so much. And Yves Berthiaume was my president when I was international vice president. And Yves is just a fantastic man, and I'm very fortunate that I get to serve with him this year as he's going to be the president of 2015-16 of the Canadian Children's Optimist Foundation. So even though they're not in the room right now, unless Yves snuck in, let's give them a round of applause if you would. And I don't know who all's in the room, but I would ask any of the governors when I was vice president that were in my region, if you're here, to please stand up. I know a few are here. or they've heard me speak before, obviously. Well, I would like to thank them. We had just a fantastic year. They showed me that we can get the job done, and so I'd like to thank them. Now, in particular, my start in optimism, of course, has been in Kansas, so I'd like to recognize anybody from the Kansas district, if you'd stand up, please. Thank you all. I love you, and thank you for your support over the years and your continuing support. Now, down here in front, there are two Kansans that are here in the front row. Representing my family also are Ed and Patsy Bruns. So Ed and Patsy, if you'd stand up. Now, Ed and Patsy are both active optimists, and Ed is a past governor of the Kansas district. Now, I need to warn you, though, that Ed is an IRS agent. And many of you know I practiced law for 15 years, then I was on the trial court bench from 1999 to 2011, and I'm now on the Kansas Court of Appeals. I like to say I'm more appealing now than I used to be. But with my brother being an IRS agent and me being a lawyer, my dad used to like to joke and say, one son's a tax collector and the other's a lawyer. Where did Irma and I go wrong? At least I think he was joking. But Ed and Patsy, I thank you not only personally, but your family members. Give them my love and respect. And you're also here representing Mom and Dad as well. Speaking of our parents, this is us as little kids. Now, I'm the good-looking one there that's agitating my brother. And he didn't have a mustache then. It's about the only picture I know where he didn't have a mustache. I thought, being the younger child, I thought he probably was born with a mustache. So I didn't know. But my parents were part of the greatest generation. My father was from Kansas City. He turned 18 years old on December 14th, 1941. The Sunday before that, he celebrated his birthday on a Sunday. The Sunday before that, December 7th, 1941, he had just started college, and he decided to enlist in the United States Army Air Corps. And I'm so proud that he did that, because I wouldn't be here. Because during his service in World War II, he was stationed at Washington and Lee University in Lexington, Virginia. And he met a local girl in Virginia, my mother, Irma, and the two met and had their first child. Our sister passed away before I was born. It had already been born. But they were true optimists their whole life. And one of the first things they did after World War II when they moved to Kansas City, his dad joined the Kansas City, Kansas Optimist Club. My mother became active in the Optimist organization. Some of you are familiar with Optimists. Anybody here familiar with Optimists? Yay! And I've told the story before to some of you, but my mom, in a way, kind of liked the Optimist organization, not only because it was a good organization, but her club owned the rights to the lapel pin design, the trademark. So every time a lapel pin was sold for Optimists, her club got money because it wasn't officially part of Benny's looking at me like, man, I need to get some royalties from him. It wasn't part of Optimist International officially, but they were an auxiliary to Optimist International. But in 1987 in Montreal, this organization voted to admit women into our membership. And we didn't have to do it because we were sued like some other organizations I'm not going to name because they could be watching this on video at some time. Plus, some of you may belong to those organizations. But I'm so proud of the fact that we voluntarily admitted women into our organization. It's been such a blessing, and I thank all of you for joining our organization, just like my mom did in 1987. She was one of the first women to join Optimist International. She went on to become the first president of the Kansas City, Kansas Noon Optimist Club, which was one of the first 11 Optimist clubs that were there in 1919 in Louisville at the convention. So I'm not only proud of my father and the Optimist work he did, but I'm very proud of my mother and the inroads that she made in optimism and throughout her life. And I'll just give you something that I always thought was fun was they were told not to get married because wartime marriages never last. But my father passed away in 2006, And I'm happy to report that shortly before he passed away, they celebrated their 62nd anniversary. Now, not only my mother and father, but my brother, we were not only growing up in Optimist. I remember going to Optimist Christmas tree lots. I didn't particularly like that as a kid to do, other than it was close to Dairy Queen, and I'd like to sneak over there. But unfortunately, they didn't have a lot of the hot food then. It was mostly cold food, but I still liked it, even though it was winter. But we grew up in Optimist. Ed and I participated in Optimist sports and all kinds of other activities growing up. And each of us went on to become lieutenant governors of the Kansas district. And as I told you, Ed and I both became governors of the Kansas district. What I learned from my parents growing up is that our Optimist clubs are the inheritance that we received from past generations. And they're the legacy that we are to leave to other generations. And think about that. Our obligation is to leave our Optimist clubs a little bit better off than we found them. We use the term the best, but really all we're using is the word optimist. The word optimist means optimum, the best. We need to do the best we can and be able to look in the mirror and say we've done the best we can. And I know there's a lot of times over the years I have not done the best I can in recruiting members or supporting Optimist activities. But if we give our best and we can look in the mirror at the end of this current Optimist year and the next Optimist year and the next Optimist year and said, we did the best we can and we fought the good fight, then we've been a success. Success isn't about numbers. Success is about individuals and doing the very best that we possibly can. Now, as we look forward to the first World Championship Oratorical Contest, I cannot help but remember the first time I spoke in front of an Optimist group. It was 1973. I was 13 years old, and I was a contestant in the Kansas City, Kansas Optimist Club Oratorical Contest. And like one of the young men in the video, I don't recall volunteering for that. I'm pretty sure my dad said, that's something you need to do. It's something that will help you throughout your life. And I probably didn't know whether that was true or not, but I went ahead and I did it. And as if we weren't nervous enough anyway, we got a call right before the contest. It was a noon meeting at the Holiday Inn downtown Kansas City, Kansas. They got a call shortly before the meeting. You need to hold up the contest for 20 to 30 minutes because United States Senator Bob Dole wants to come and watch. Well, I don't know how many of you remember Bob Dole, and Bob Dole is, yay! Bob Dole knew how to get along with people. But Bob Dole's a man I respect. He's going to be 92 years old this year. He's a disabled World War II vet. But needless to say, that made us very nervous. I went ahead and competed, and this is me getting my second place trophy. As I explained as I went around to some of the workshops the other day, I did something that's very unique, kind of like a pitcher that pitches a no-hitter up to that last batter with 2 out in the bottom of the ninth and gives up a home run. I finished in second place 3 times in the Kansas District Oratorical Contest. Yay, thank you. Thank you. And I still have, I have that trophy someplace, but it's tucked away. But I still cherish that certificate of participation, and on the back it's autographed by Bob Dole, United States Senator. Because I didn't receive a penny from that contest, I never received a scholarship. We always focus on those receiving scholarships. Did I benefit? Yes, I benefited. I wouldn't be in front of you today if I didn't benefit from Optimist and what Optimist did in my life. It gave me the confidence to be able to stand up in front of a group. Now, whether it was good or bad, my dad would say maybe it wasn't good. It also made me want to go into a legal career. So as I stand here before you today as your Optimist International President designate, and as a judge of the Kansas Court of Appeals, I can trace that back to being a participant in an Optimist Oratorical Contest in 1973. So I need to thank all of you and all of those that left us this great inheritance. Now, my kids, hopefully voluntarily, also grew up around Optimist, and this is them at, I think, in the 1998 convention in Atlanta. And then this is my mother at the 2006 convention in Nashville, which is the last convention she was able to attend. But optimism is all about family to me, and our family vacations, like probably many of you, were spent at Optimist conventions. And Elise, Emery's mom, who was up here a minute ago, Elise was born on July 4th. Almost every birthday she's ever had in her entire life has been spent at an Optimist International Convention. And now that legacy continues. This is our family today. You got to meet some of them up on stage today. And now, as a proud grandpa, I look forward to Optimist clubs being around to help kids 50 years from now, just like they were there to help me 50 years ago. Now, what you may not know is that I also have family across the United States, across Canada, across the Caribbean. My family is called Optimist, and each of you do as well. As I've made Optimist travels, and I've been to a lot of places, as many of you have, I've found that Optimists are hardworking, dedicated people, regardless of where I go. I see people that are willing to give of their time and their talent in the service of others. Now, Emery is telling me that I'm speaking too long, so I will move to a picture of Emery. And she's here with someone called Jenny. What is her last name now? Elder. Jenny Elder. This is Jenny Kondrasik. I know her much better, who's here with Elise and Emery. These two young ladies became family because they met as children at Optimist International Conventions, long before I ever knew Jim and Deborah. Now, for a while, I think Deborah in particular, probably wanted to shoot me because Elise convinced Jenny to attend the University of Kansas. Now, for those of you who don't know, they live in Monona, Wisconsin, which happens to be a part of a suburb of Madison, Wisconsin. They have a pretty good school right there. So thank you, Jim and Deborah, for sending your daughter to Kansas and paying out-of-state tuition. But you know what? Deborah's not as mad at me anymore because Jenny, through this connection, met her now husband, Blake Elder, who is a firefighter in Lawrence, Kansas, where the University of Kansas is. Now, she may not like me for this. Jenny and Blake live in Kansas. Jim and I are working on them and some other folks in this room on a young professionals club in Johnson County, Kansas. And most importantly, they are adding a future Optimist as well. Blake and Jenny will have a baby, I believe, in November. So let's give the Kondrasiks a round of applause for that. One of the greatest honors I had in this organization for 2 years, thanks to this gentleman right here, Theo Golding, and to Ronnie Dunn, I was appointed to chair the Joy Committee. And I'm calling it Joy because that's what the kids call it. Externally, let's call it Junior Optimists. Let's call it Youth Optimists. But we do know it is Joy. And this is my Junior Optimist family, just a few of them. And I'm still in contact with them. There's AJ Cifuentes up there in the left-hand corner. And when we were in Madison for Jenny and Blake's to show how a small family, we went to the state capitol where AJ is interning and met with him there. And he showed us around the capitol, and we got to see the governor's office even. But optimism to me is all about family. It's all about a mission. It's all about a purpose. And we share one mission, and we share one purpose. And it's bringing out the best in youth. See, I read the resolution. In our communities and in ourselves. And we're going to do it. Do we wait till October 1st? When are we going to do it? Right here, right now. Optimists do so much good work, and we get wrapped up in debates, pro and con microphones, and we get wrapped up in things in board meetings that really probably aren't that important. Because the kids we serve, they could care less whether Ken's president, or Dave's president, or Jim's president, or whoever else is president. What they care about is that we are still there helping them. And unfortunately, there's a lot of clubs that are no longer there to help kids. So let's remember that we have one mission, and we're in this together, folks. And if we don't think that, look at the print that they just unveiled at the foundation luncheon today. And that's what I believe it's called, is Together. What is it called? Somebody. Together we make it happen. And it's each of us, and it's each of us 100% supporting our Optimist International foundations, both in Canada and the United States, because that's where the scholarships come from. It's each of us working each day in our club to make the community a better place. We also have one goal, and we know that goal, and I'm not an accountant. Ken's explained the numbers to you, and I don't know all the math, but you know what? Something that Ken and I agree upon, and that is, these aren't really the numbers that make a difference. These are the numbers that we insert into the calculation to see what makes a difference. What really makes a difference is the millions of kids that we are serving, and the millions more kids we can serve if we have 100,000 members by 2019. And to do that, the reason why I'm using the tagline of right here, right now, is because, folks, we've sat around a long time hoping, all service organizations may be kind of stagnant in membership, and we just think naturally it's going to turn around. Well, we've been thinking that for about 20 years. We need to develop a sense of urgency, not panic. If the folks, those first 11 clubs, knew that we had 70,000 members today, they would say, man, that's fantastic. It is great. Think of what we can do with what we have. Let's take what we have and not worry about what we can no longer do. Let's take what we're good at and be the very best in the world at it. And let's do it right here, right now. You're going to see right here, right now quite a bit, folks. But I always like this. Now is the time, and it's today, that we need to renew our commitment to youth, renew our commitment to our local communities, renew our commitment to local clubs, and renew our commitment to growth. It's important for us to remember that each Optimist serves, my last calculation, I've seen it different ways, but my last calculation showed that it was about 35 members that each Optimist helps. So let's view it that way. If you think we're wrapped up in numbers, just think about it. It's not numbers for the sake of numbers. It's numbers for the sake of kids that we can serve. If we work together across international lines, across district lines, we can achieve so many great things. As a judge, I see so many children that are in homes, broken homes, in homes full of drugs, in homes full of poverty. And you can get pretty depressed at my job, I have to tell you that. There are times that I'm depressed. But it's so fantastic to know that there are people like Optimist out there to help. And for those of you who question whether or not, and probably none of you do, I'm preaching to the choir, but I want you to take this message home. If there's anyone out there who's ever thinking about disbanding an Optimist club and they think, man, this is an archaic organization, we don't need this anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, we need the work of Optimists more today than at any point in our history. So let's promote the good news. We're Optimists. We have over 70,000 family members to go out and help in our local communities. We have over 15,000 youth members to assist us in that endeavor. So let's focus on the positive, not the negative. Now you may ask, how do we do this? And many of you know about the book, Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And he said, people don't choose your organization because of what you do. They choose it because of why you do it. Now, I want to share with you a story that was written not by me, but by a gentleman in my club that I sponsored, Curtis Sneeden in Topeka, Kansas, the White Lakes Optimist Club. And this is a picture of the day that he was admitted to the bar, to the Kansas bar. I've probably been admitted to other bars too. But the Kansas bar with his father, John Sneeden. And on March 20th, 1997, Curtis wrote this. He was way ahead of the time because he wrote something entitled, Why I Became an Optimist. And this is not my words, this is Curtis's words. My dad spoke proudly of his Optimist Club. Curdy, he'd say, we didn't mess around. If a kid needed help, we'd help him on the spot. That was that. Dad recounted at an Optimist meeting one winter when a local high school senior addressed the club. The boy's parents, it seemed, had been forced by careers to move, but the young man had opted to stay behind in the family home in order to finish his senior year. The boy had somehow miscalculated his home heating bills and was fast running out of heating oil. For reasons which I never thought to ask my dad about, when he told the story, the young man's family was not in a position to help. So the boy had come to the Optimist, asking for just a small donation in order to purchase just enough oil to get him through the winter. Dad's Optimist Club immediately granted the boy's request. No board meeting, no quorum, no paperwork. The kid just needed help, Dad would say, so we gave it to him. For Dad, and now for me, optimism means helping kids. And now I have a story that I'll be able to tell my children. Some weeks ago, our Optimist Club learned of a young girl attending Topeka High School who has some special physical needs. In order to facilitate her learning to walk, she needed a medical apparatus in her shoes. The girl's teacher addressed the White Lakes Optimist Club and asked whether we might be able to assist for the acquisition of this small but costly device. We granted her request on the spot. No board meeting, no quorum, no paperwork. We just knew the girl needed our help. Today, some of us enjoyed the privilege of meeting this very special young lady. I have always felt at home in my Optimist Club, something like being in the presence of family. Today, it felt like my dad was there too. For you see, he succumbed to cancer in 1995. But he was with me at the meeting today saying, way to go, son. Today was why I became an optimist. And you know, each of us has an optimist story to tell. Each of us knows why we joined the club, and we forget because we get so wrapped up in all the technicalities and all the motions and all the board meetings and everything else we do. The best way to reach out to our communities is to share your optimist story. So ladies and gentlemen, let's commit to telling our optimist stories right here, right now. Let us commit to a growth surge across Optimist International right here, right now. Let us commit to sharing the joy that we have found in helping children by starting new youth optimist clubs right here, right now. Let's help our communities by starting new optimist clubs right here, right now. Let's commit to work together hand in hand with young people to support our youth clubs, our joy clubs. I don't care what we call them. Let's work together right here, right now. Let's commit to making our programs the best in the world right here, right now. Let's commit to supporting our Optimist foundations so that we can provide more scholarships to our children right here, right now. And most of all, let us commit to making Optimist International the best service organization in the world right here, right now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's work together to create a better future for children, for our communities, for our districts, for our clubs, and for ourselves. And let's do it right here. Thank you all. Merci beaucoup.
Right here, right now. That's a great place to put it. And we're not done yet, so for those who are leaving, you're going to miss some stuff. It's the hat.
No, she's crying because folks are...
Mommy. Okay, there we go. But on behalf of Patsy and I, we want to give you a little something. We know this is a big year coming up. A lot of travel, a lot of other things. And so we picked something out specifically for you guys that we thought this right here, right now, would be very important for you, because we know we have gotten so much out of it personally. So we want to present this to you.
I'm a little afraid, but let's see. After the video, you're going to know why I need this. Discovering French right here, right now. Thank you, Kenny. Patsy. We're there for you right here, right now. So.
Thank you, Dave and Sean.
Thank you all.